I'm really thrilled that today we are joined by Mann, and you are releasing It's Automatic today. And actually, I was a little confused when we first started chatting because I saw that the song was on Spotify on my mobile, but not on desktop. And then I realized, oh, it was actually already released. Obviously, you had a reason for it. So tell me, how did it happen? And because now you're officially re-releasing the song, is that right?
Essentially, not so much. I uploaded the track so that it comes from an album which isn't officially released, and the way in which I'm putting things out is slightly different to the mainstream. I'm doing it quite very much self-funded, so I got things in place quite early on in the year, um, uploading to the distribution sites ready to go. But because I do a lot of my interaction through my website direct to fans, it it was something that was scheduled for around this time of year, but because of technology and all the rest of it, I wanted to get very much ahead of the game. So it officially hasn't been released. You could find it, but there's been no traffic generation towards it. So the official release is still Monday, the
Yeah.
23rd as we speak.
Like, where did inspiration come to actually do something very different when it comes to arranging your releases?
I, I suppose it's just a few battle scars, really. I like to be in control of how my music goes out, and I'm very much of the opinion that if you directly interact with your fans, you get a much more personal experience, really. And people who genuinely find your music are finding it for the right reasons. So people like yourself, who I contacted and asked if you like the track, it's not just a mail shot out saying, "Can everyone cover my tunes? Can you just release this and tell everyone it's amazing?" I found the feedback from people like yourselves as being people who've genuinely like the track, want to cover the track, want to know about it, rather than just a blanket email out to say, please, get me some
Yeah.
cover. So I found that much more organic. So that's, for me, it's a personal thing. I just like to be able to talk to people who are interested in the tunes, really.
How did the whole pandemic that we're experiencing changed everything? Because you launched the track at the very beginning of the year, and I bet you were having maybe certain expectations of how things will go. How did everything change, or did you need to change a lot of your plans? Even right now where you are with the release.
What we're doing now, the world has moved on, I guess, and I think everyone's adapted very well with the Zoom calling and the online stuff. Obviously, the live stuff has completely died for the moment, and hopefully it'll come back stronger than ever.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually releasing, um, it's very it still seems very organic because there's a release date, there's promotion up to that, and then when you tell people about it, there's still very much availability. People can really get hold of it, and especially doing it through my site, it felt like I could still be in control. So the sort of standard vehicle, obviously, is, you release something, you get out and you play some shows. So in that respect, it's definitely a lot harder. But I think you just adapt. I feel that everyone who likes music still wants to support it. So it feels slightly different, but I would say in terms of putting stuff out online with the social media vibe these days, it doesn't feel like it's changed too much. And the response has been great. And I've found, because people are probably behind the computers a lot more and on the phones a lot more at home, the actual response has been a lot more immediate rather than, just getting filed off into some email list somewhere. People are actually got a lot more time to maybe go through a few more emails these days.
To spend time looking for music as well, because the
Yeah.
hardest the hardest part is when we are so used to being fed music by really big playlists, and then it's just about algorithms analyzing what you listen to. And if you listen to mainstream music, you will never be given a music from you, for example. However, if you start switching to independent artists, that's when the algorithm picks up that you're no longer interested in Ed Sheeran or someone from like that A-list kind of world, but you're diving into an independent world. And
Yeah.
now when people have more time at home, maybe their behaviors hopefully are changing as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. The great thing about music is you can't fill it. There's room for everyone. I get a buzz out of finding small bands, new bands, and I genuinely believe as well, in an age where you can stream everything, because Spotify and the rest of them, they're fantastic. But I, as an artist myself, if I find someone that I really like, I will genuinely find them through their own channels, and I'd like to buy their music. I suppose it's a bigger question, the idea of streaming versus sales and the rest of it, but I believe that, especially in a pandemic, when guys can't go out and tour and make money that way, it's fantastic that artists are getting found through these kind of smaller playlists, through these independent channels, and then when they connect with people, people will just say, "Well, here's £10, I'll buy your album." That's fantastic. It's maybe it's just opened up a little bit of an avenue for a few indie guys, which I'm proud of that.
You already had really good feedback. I mean, to have a quote from BBC introducing Sever saying "Never in Doubt" has to be our record of the year. Now, that is
Yeah.
something.
It was the Yorkshire introducing a guy called Jericho Keys. He's originally not far from where I originate from, in Ripon, North Yorkshire. He's just very, very, very kind and very nice. He likes his music. He's sort of kept an eye on me as I've been doing my thing. And yeah, it makes you feel great, because obviously you don't put too much to what people say, because you're an artist, you want to do your own thing. But it's just lovely when you put something out there and someone says, "I really like it." Happy enough to say that it's one of the best things I've heard this year. So that's going on all my promotional campaigns.
It's something like this automatically can open the doors, especially when it comes to those, more important decision makers, because
Yeah,
for blogs like mine, it's not the reason why we are talking. It's the reason your music is the reason. I don't care about who says what. I care about
Yeah.
what how I connected and what I feel about the song. And hands down, like listening, it's hard to believe that it's the first track, because it's such a mature and well-established sound, and it
Thank you very
already
much.
sounds like it already sounds like it's been played all over the world. Like, it has that quality, and and even the meaning of the song. Like, I want you to talk about it as well, now that there is a very different meaning to maybe what I'm imagining. I know the meaning, but I wanted for you to kind of to talk about it.
It was the first track I kind of wrote for the album, and it's sort of very good about, it sort of fits in quite well with times. Just the idea that it's automatic, just how as a society, without getting too macro, we sort of force down channels subliminally. So it's buy this, be here, do this, but you can't lose. Everything's a winner. It's automatic. You'll win. Do what we say, that kind of thing. And it's about sort of being pushed down sort of avenues that you maybe wouldn't, without making your own choices, I guess, was the main sort of sinister side of it. So the idea of, shoot, you can't lose, it's automatic. It's this idea that, the big billboards, you should buy this and you should have this insurance and that kind of thing. And then I suppose that filtered slightly into the music industry as well, with, you should play this gig to show these people this. And there's this formulaic way in which subconsciously, I think we all live, because, you pay your taxes and all the rest of it. It just felt like a document on the idea of how we think we may be making all our own choices, but somewhere along the line, there's maybe just a little puppet master somewhere, I guess, in the bigger scheme, I guess.
While recording an album, you had quite a journey when it comes to your voice, and when you were ill. What was the best thing that helped you to restore the voice?
I had an old friend tell me once that obviously the classic honey, lemon, ginger, hot water, which I absolutely did for the whole recording. It was essentially my savior. I had I won't lie to you, there was a little totty of something slightly stronger in places, but it was essentially lay down a guitar, and while that was being fiddled with and talked about in the studio, I had a big bowl of water with vapor in, and I was just
vape as well.
Yeah, so it was like it's like an antiseptic oil. There's quite a few of them around, but just a couple of drops of that just to clear the airways, because I was very aware that if it was a tour, the tour would probably have to be cancelled. I did struggle for quite a bit afterwards, but I knew I only had a certain amount of time to get through and finish songs. So it was a case of blast the song and then sit very quietly, steam the head, drink the water, and wait until I was told to go again. And to be honest, David Watts, the producer, he's a gentleman. He actually worked in a way that he knew that if I did a track, he could then do some of the technical stuff while I was kind of recovering. So I suppose the answer would be honey and lemon, and don't talk in between any takes. Just go completely silent,
Recording songs, for example, do you cut the song in parts and then work on those parts until it's perfect, or you go like one take from the beginning until the end, not to lose that energy? What works for you?
I like to do slightly cut them up. So I quite like to do choruses in a batch. So because I've been told I'm very loud when I sing. I don't need to be recorded at a high level because I essentially shout. Um, so it's like a workout. So we have the vocal booth is actually quite big at Chairworks in where I did it up north in the studio, and essentially it feels like a bit of a fight. I get all pumped up, do the choruses really loud, really quick, really fast, get it spot on. So essentially they're a one take, and then I drop down to the verses where it can be a little bit more restrained. But essentially, yeah, it's usually a run through and then do the verses afterwards. But I like to do it that way just because my voice stays in the same vocal range for certain parts. I know some bands record live, the classics, Etta James and Aretha and those, they were mustard, so they just went straight through. But I quite like to keep my voice in a certain zone, especially when it was quite rough, it was quite ill. So I kept it there and then recorded those and then came down to the lower parts.
How long did it take you to record an album?
I did it in 5 days.
Wow.
I got a friend in called Jake who's a phenomenal drummer, and he recorded all the tracks for the album in a day, which is unheard of. He's a phenomenal professional. He did it really well, and because he could do that in a day, we got everything laid up ready for that. So essentially, because I was ill as well, we built it all the way up to the vocals, so trying to give myself as much time. But like I say, talking to Dave, he's a very good, very professional and a very good man. So he kind of works in a way that's good for you. And the hours were long. So I was getting there at sort of 8 in the morning. I was leaving at sort of 2 in. So it was going right. But that's, that small time budgets. I had to get everything squeezed in, so, but it was great fun. And I'll be going back and doing, some more with him because he's a fantastic guy.
So how did you prepare your voice for such a lengthy recording of those 5 days? Because that's mental on your vocal cords, not even mentioning that you were already not at your best state, for example. Because I've been in recording studios, recording music myself. I know the process, how it's done. The sad thing is that typically you're pushed into like, okay, we have an hour, let's do it. When you're recording an album, you have 10 songs on the album, and to do 10 songs in 5 days, so that's 2 songs each. And your songs are, you go full on with your vocal, like it's really, as you say, like you have really powerful voice. Did you prepare in a specific way, or just train your voice all the time and it was already in that shape that you can actually just deliver it?
It's just, I suppose it's the classic warm-up techniques. What I find is the first one obviously was warm up. It's the humming, it's the vocal ranges and the progressions to sort of get my voice there. But I find that once I've done one track, how I was finding. So I think on one day I actually did 3 songs in a day. But I found that after I'd done the first track and it had opened up, although I was ill, the second and third track were actually quite easy to sing. It's just my voice kind of gave out after the third track. So once I'd done the first one, the voice was almost prepped for the second and third. It was remembering the words was the problem. I kept forgetting the words, even though I had the sheets. My eyes are going, I think. I had the sheets in front of me with the lyrics on, and I kept forgetting the words. So every time I forgot the words, I realized that I'd made myself a lot more work because I had to redo that line, So
yeah. And talking about the sheets, I really loved the idea that you're selling the lyric sheet on your website for It's Automatic. I love how cool it is, and you have some things that are scratched out. Like that. It looks so so natural. Was that the original sheet that you were using while recording it, or were you just written down for the store?
But that was actually it's a copy of the actual songwriting book I have. I have a book with where I write all the lyrics down, and my girlfriend actually said that looks really cool.
It does look really cool.
You should do that. And I was doing the thing where I was going to write it neat, and she was like, "Oh no, leave the crosses on it," and it's quite cool. But I love that. I'm a fan of obviously loads of artists, and I recently bought a Bruce Springsteen box set where he's got like all his lyrics, and I find that fantastic when you find out. It wasn't just, he didn't just think of it, he thought of this and then he changed it. And so I thought, it worked quite well, but I'll get you one sent across, definitely.
Oh, that would be amazing.
No problems.
So your album, you already released it in vinyl back at the beginning of the year as well. So I understand that you go for the strategy of putting it more for your website directly. And and selling it online. Do we have a chance of getting it sometime at Spotify, or you're not going to go that route at all?
In terms of Spotify, I'd like to release a couple more singles off the album. The album will probably be direct from my website. I just think it gives people who are invested in my music just a little bit more exclusivity. And I like I say, I handwrite and sign anyone that any vinyl that goes out. And I just like to give people who support me just a little bit more than what the mainstream sort of views and people who are just sort of slightly interested. I like to cultivate that, just that connection with the fans. And I always think that's a little bit more special to be able to say, you can't get this anywhere else apart from, direct from me. It comes from me. I sign it, I post it. So I think it'll probably be kept to the website, at least for now.
Isn't it like really challenging? Let's say for someone who's starting with new music, new chapter, new song, new album, and you must have really big following to actually be able to connect with that many fans, so they would be kind of coming to you directly. Do you already have that, or that just comes from from what you did before in music?
It's a bit of both, really. I'm very much in the process of cultivating that. So I find that with a small budget, you can contact quite a lot of people in certain areas and put enough stuff out on social media through a few Facebook ads, and there's a little bit of a financial backing behind it. But I find that a lot of people connect when you connect with the right people, if that sounds the right thing. Rather than trying to tell everyone about what I do, I try and find people that are genuinely interested in my type of music. And that slowly starts to build. So essentially, I'm geared up for building the mailing list. So the mailing list, what I do is I give people free tracks to get involved, and then there's a lot of benefits and exclusives and giveaways behind the scenes that isn't in the mainstream. The fan base is growing quite well. I'm quite proud of it. We're going from, we're into the few thousand now in terms of like dedicated fans on the mailing list, and the Facebook fans are obviously following. I find that because they're dedicated fans, they're prepared just to give you a little bit more financial support. You don't need that many people, because I don't want to be a millionaire. I don't need to be famous. I don't need to be, own yachts. I just want to make a living out of doing this. And I find that a small group of people who are genuinely dedicated are happy to support you, and you can cultivate a decent living from that, I think.
And this is such an original take on not doing what everyone else is doing just because everyone is doing it. And it's so refreshing to hear that. It kind of takes me back in time when I've heard Amanda Palmer talk The Art of Asking, her famous TED talk about back then there was no Spotify, right? Back then it was either you pay for music or you download everything illegally. And she said, I'm going to give everything away, but I'm going to ask for you to help me. It worked incredibly well for her. Thing that she mentioned, and I've heard it from you as well, that it's about being close to fewer people and knowing that those fewer people are enough. And do you have any tools that help you do that? Let's say even for the mailing list, do you use MailChimp, or have you found something better?
I use a company. They're an American company called Aweber, which they're actually designed for email marketing, which sounds really evil. But what it does is it allows you to deliver to your fans in a really effective way. So what I find as a musician, and what a lot of musicians find, is doing the business side and doing the music side, they either conflict or get in the way of each other to the point where both fail or one fails. And I find with the email system, which it's slightly automated, but it's me answering all the emails, but it just allows me to deliver. If someone buys the album digitally, it delivers that automatically. And if there's any questions, I get automated responses that come to me, and I can deal with each one. And I find that really does help you then free up time to make more music, because essentially that's why you do it. The Facebook thing's great. Like I say, I've just touched on it. I'd spend a bit of money on ads to push to the right people, because I believe you've got to invest in the business side of it. The mailing list builds, I believe, because you're adding value to people. You're not just asking people for things. So as soon as someone gets involved in what I do, I give them free tracks. I give them acoustic videos, and it's because I want people to enjoy the music. If I can record an acoustic track of one of the album tracks, I mean, what good is it that I've got it? I may as well give it to people who are interested in those things. And when, like you say, when the super fans start to come in, the ones that react all the time are the ones who love that stuff. It's exactly what I like as a fan. I like to see, the Elton John keyboard bit that didn't quite work, or, the Beatles making a mess of, Hey Bulldog or whatever. I love that stuff.
Yeah. I remember when someone leaked studio recordings of Queen's songs and all of the layers,
Yeah,
and then you're
fabulous.
like, wow. I mean, like it's unheard of, right? And you want to go for that. Like if you're like a fan, it's just so interesting
Yeah.
to analyze those things.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing in this day and age as well, that it isn't hard to deliver to your fans. Like the idea of this is where it went wrong, but it makes you more human, and that's the connection. People love a rock star, but they also like the guy down the road who writes a great song that they love, and they realize he's human because his voice doesn't work in a studio and he's forgotten all the lyrics. People love that. That's why people want to talk to you.
Yeah, I absolutely love your concept. I love how refreshing it is, and I think that more and more people need to know about it. I haven't heard it before, from someone who would be doing music in 2020, that
Yeah,
this is the route that they're going. And I think that when we have someone share about, why, like the reasoning why you're doing this, and that actually it's working. Um,
yeah,
because we're so focused on Spotify and stream numbers and followers and this and that and likes, and that a lot of that can be bought
yeah.
days, and it's fake. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but
Mm.
you cannot buy your mailing list.
No, you're essentially saying to people, do you want to be involved in this? And there's an absolute yes or no. And it's a huge thing to give away your personal details. You're giving away access to yourself. So when somebody
Yeah.
gives that, I don't take that lightly at all. I exactly what you say. I think Spotify and the online platforms are fab. I've got a Spotify account myself. I find it brilliant for music discovery. But I think as an artist, you're totally right. To give someone your email address, you're essentially saying, I buy into what you do, even if it's not financially, even if it's just to say, send me some free videos because I like what you do. That's magic for me.
Yeah, it's like what Amanda Palmer said, I trust you this much, show me.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's that connection.
A huge, and the crazy, I was going to pick up on the Amanda Palmer thing. I think she lost the record deal because you've seen the video, I'm sure. She lost the record deal because I think she only sold 56,000 albums or copies or whatever. And then when she did a crowdfunding campaign, she raised over 1 million with about 50,000
It
people.
was the same people. It was the same amount of people. Yeah.
It's incredible. And, she said like that's because, and it comes back to it's automatic because people don't know why people, with the automatic thing, the way in which people perceive music is, and it's not through no fault of their own. They think they're supporting an artist by pressing like and downloading. Mm-hmm. It's fab because they really want to support, but because of the powers that be, financially that doesn't support an artist. But that's the only way people know how to, because they say, oh well, if I download it and stream it, the artist will be fine. And the artists are struggling. Whereas if you say to someone, please buy my album for £10, which is 2 beers in London where I live, it's not really a lot to ask. It was someone saying that in this day and age, we're at an age now where we record albums on £1 million desks through £50,000 speakers to be listened to on, £2.50 earphones. So all the quality is getting condensed to a point where when it gets to the final listener on MP3, which is fabulous for, the electronical world, but when people listen to it, it's easy to forget that a guy went into a studio, which is thousands of pounds, played live, wrote the songs, and without sounding too preachy, £10 for that album doesn't seem, especially when it's going straight to the artist. Because I suppose back in the day when you've got your big record labels, the artists used to get paid £1 at the end of it if you're lucky, kind of thing.
Yeah.
This isn't a rant about the industry. I get it.
No. I know, but this I understand, and this is where Apple Music, when they came along, that was such a game changer, I believe, for artists when they were giving 80% from what you sell, the artist would get. As far as I remember, I'm not sure if that's really correct, but that's what I was told, right? I think Bandcamp is doing similar. Maybe the percentage is even higher, but
yeah.
I remember Lady Gaga one time when she was releasing one of her really successful albums, like maybe the second or the third one. She completely killed the internet because she gave away the album for $1, but the price of the single, basically. Her albums, like a lot of songs,
Yeah.
more than the normal amount of songs. And someone asked her, why did you do that? I mean, you put so much time and effort in creating it, and you're giving away for $1. And she said, well, because digital means nothing. For me, music is the feeling, it's experience. It's about taking a physical CD, going for the artwork, reading the lyrics, looking the credits and smelling new booklet. It's that opening of a CD and getting into a new world of some sort. And
Yeah.
when you're just downloading it and streaming and skipping and it's nothing. It's just, you don't have that emotional attachment, because you can always skip to a next song that is, it's out there. And
Yeah.
and that's mind blowing as well when it comes from a really, one of the most successful artists of the last decades, when she makes such a blunt statement. But, she can do that, right? Because she has the following. Like, even if someone buys her album for $1, we're talking millions of copies.
Yeah, of
If we
course.
would do that, that would be, maybe in your case that would be thousands. In my case, that would be nothing, because I don't have any followers yet. So
I'd buy it.
oh, thank you. No, so that's the thing. And when you're traveling, Spotify is the best thing, of course. But I want them to, I was thinking for a while that the most um, like, what would be a successful model for Spotify being fair, right? So uh, as I'm a Prima customer, for example, I pay every month 10 quid for services, right? I'm happy to do that, and I would want my money to be split for the artists that I listen to. I don't want my money to go to the billions of streams, artists. I want my money, like, okay, if you decide that Spotify keeps 10 or 15% of that £10, the rest, it's easy to have a formula and split between what I listen to and
Yeah.
give to the artists that I support the most and listen to the most, but yeah, it be very little, but at least that's something, rather than 0.0000 nothing for a stream. I mean, this is nothing.
Yeah.
3
I
zeros
think,
after zero is nothing.
yeah, exactly. And I think it comes back to the point we were saying about people are unaware. So fans are genuinely streaming because they want to support the artist. It's not because people don't want to support the artist. It's just they are so unaware of how little the artist gets paid. And I don't want to bring it down to money, really. It's not about being rich. You don't want to be Bruno Mars, because, I mean, he's got too much money. But the idea would be that if fans knew that a stream was giving 50p to the artist, I mean, it's nothing, but it's still, with a 1,000 streams, that artist is getting paid £500, and that seems much more, much fairer, isn't it? Because the algorithm and the fee scheme does work for the big artists. If back to Ed Sheeran, if he's doing 400 million streams a day, he's probably making a nice little penny, and I've got no issue with that. The guy writes songs and he sells music, and all's good. But yeah, when it trickles down to the smaller guys, the indie guys, we have to be a little bit more creative, I guess, because people aren't doing it because they don't want to support you. They think they are supporting you.
There's one thing that I want to ask as well. What would be your advice that you would give to someone who might be at the beginning of their career, or they might want to go into music, but they're not really sure? And especially with everything that happened in this year, is there anything that you would advise them to encourage them?
The best bit of advice I got when I first started was the classic: write good tunes and write 100 more than you think you need. Is a great bit of advice. An old producer told me that, because if you write 100 tunes, you might get 10 that are worth listening to. And the best bit of advice I got was from a very old lady, my great auntie, and she said, never be jealous. And I think that's massive in the music industry, because when you see other people doing things or being successful, it's really easy to be jealous and wondering how they're doing their thing. And I think if you just stick to your path, write some good tunes, and exactly what we were just talking about. Get a community together. Don't ask people for things. Just add value to people musically, and the rest will follow, I think.
I absolutely love that. So thank you so much. And just for everyone to mention again, so EG Man's song "It's Automatic" is available on Spotify, and it's back to Spotify, which is really awesome. As well, the full length album "This Is Nowhere," you are able to buy it directly from the website egmanmusic.co. And as well, I really like your merch. It's so cool. So as we already mentioned, you have T-shirts and you have the lyric sheets. It's signed ones, and the vinyls, if you buy, would come with a signature as well. So go support, stream, and share, because that's what we need. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Have an awesome release week, and we're gonna catch up really soon.
I hope so, and I'll get the merch in the post here.
Oh man, awesome.
Nice one. It's been great to speak to you. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.